Hello guys, it's Teacher Janelle. This video is going to teach you how to identify or to differentiate or to distinguish a fact from an opinion, from a belief, and a prejudice. The good thing about this video is that I am going to provide a given statement wherein you can formulate an opinion, a fact, a prejudice, and a belief based on a given statement so that you would see the uniformity. And if you are a teacher, it will be easy for you to let your students see the bigger picture. And if you are a student, this would ignite your critical thinking to see the connectedness in things. If I am not mistaken, that is the existential intelligence, to see the bigger picture. In order to do that, of course, we need to see the connectedness of things. Because if we can't see how things are related to each other, then perhaps we might lose sight of what is ahead. So, hang on tight and let's begin. Here is a table, here is a matrix. Here is a matrix. A matrix is just a table, darling. It's, well, for non-English speakers, for non-native speakers, a matrix is the use of the word matrix is a very good addition to your vocabulary. That would simply mean the table, but by using the word matrix, it would expand your vocabulary. Okay? So instead of saying, I have here a table, I shall say, I will present to you a matrix showing a fact, an opinion, a belief, and a prejudice, which are related to each other because they are based on one given statement. Here is the matrix. So you see the first column, that is the given statement. The second column is the fact. Third is the opinion, belief. Fourth and the fifth or the last in the columns of this matrix, I call this the FOBP matrix, is the prejudice. So okay, fact, opinion, belief, and prejudice. This is what I usually use for my students. I want them to see the bigger picture. Okay. Now, let us first differentiate a fact from an opinion from a belief from a prejudice, and vice versa. Okay, so let's begin first with fact. When can we say that a statement is a fact? It is a fact if the given statement is verifiable, meaning you can prove it with the use of evidences like facts, dates, testimonies. You can find sources that could prove you by giving you information, solid facts, they say. Okay, so solid information to make it a fact. All right, but it doesn't mean that everyone should believe in it because it is a fact. It is just a fact, but it doesn't mean that you have to imbibe it into your system to chew it because it is a fact. An opinion is not just any of those statements that you say because you think that's what you believe in. That's what we usually think an opinion should be. But an opinion is something in a higher level. To have an opinion, that would mean that you were able to read facts. You have obtained information. And because of those information, you have made up your own opinion. So if you did not base a statement to a fact, darling, that is not an opinion. Okay, so it would only be an opinion if you base it on facts. You base it on solid evidences. So, opinion is judgment based on facts. So you have made a conclusion perhaps or a generalization because you have read it somewhere, because you have evidences to prove it. You have facts to prove it. Next, belief. Belief is something that you have imbibed in your system. That is something that no one could ever erase or take from you because that has become something that you live by. It would go with your religion, your faith, your culture, and that is distinct to each individual. What you believe in, I may not agree, but I cannot tell you to stop believing in it because we are unique in our faith, in our belief, in the way we think, the way we guard ourselves. That's belief. So how do we identify that? You can easily see that in lines or in arguments that are suggestive of culture in a specific group of people, specific place, or faith, certain religions, or certain traditions in a certain country, or certain place, certain tribes. Okay, that would be belief. How is it different now if I'm gonna say prejudice? That is something that usually connotes something negative because, well, from the word itself, prejudice, you are already judging without prior study, without prior examination, or even without evidence. You make a conclusion because of some incident, maybe one or two incidents, and you make a generalization that, oh, okay, all men are like that, all women are like that. Okay, so that is a prejudice because you're making a half-baked judgment, and based on, let's just say, a half-baked or insufficient evidence. There is evidence, but it is insufficient. So that means yes, of course, you base it from perhaps an experience or something else, perhaps on a certain condition, but not all conditions are used to generalize. Before we generalize, we have to make sure that we have dug up enough evidences. So if you went through or go to final conclusions or generalizations based on half-baked or insufficient evidence, you are making a prejudice. Okay? The given statement, God created everything that is present in this entire world. That is the given statement. Now, by the way, in order for you to accomplish this matrix or to guide you in how to do this matrix, you pay attention carefully so that you would understand how this matrix is used or how this matrix should be answered. God created everything that is present in this entire world. You are going to identify first the given statement as to whether it is a fact, an opinion, a belief, or a prejudice. So based on that, God created everything that is present in this entire world. There is already a picture of faith because of the presence of the word God. So that would point to our religion, to our belief. So where should that go? That means this given statement is a belief. Okay, so that is not a fact. You don't believe, I don't believe that God created this world. It is not a question of my belief because I'm the one talking here. It's the question of the faith of people, the people who are living their lives to such belief. And you cannot erase that from them because they have grown into it. However, it is a belief because not everyone believes in it. Remember that there are some theories, scientific-based theories, that would explain how the world was created. That is scientific because that can be explained further. But those are still theories though. But that's one approach, that's scientific approach. But concluding or saying that God created everything, obviously, that goes straight to our belief, our faith. For Christianity, our God, our next task is the second column. What possible fact can we find that would relate to creation? That's quite interesting. Okay, let's say creation. I have this in my matrix. Billions of plastic bags are made each year. That's creation? Yep, it's creation. It's just that is related to creation because that would imply what we as humankind were able to produce. Okay, so these bags are made each year, billions of plastic bags, and that can be verified through statistics, through numbers. So this one is a fact. But the opinion that is found in the matrix, it says, plastic is one of man's greatest invention in destroying the world. Is that great? Hang on. Is that related to the given statement? It says creation and there you are destroying the world. Of course, destruction creation goes with taking care of it, and if we fail to take care of what has been created, it would lead to destruction. So I say this one is related to it. So plastic is one of man's greatest invention in destroying the world. That is an opinion because it is based on the fact that billions of plastics are created each year, or other information that would lead us to if I am going to be the one to say it, that would lead me to say that plastic is one of man's greatest inventions in destroying the world. Because of course, evidences would prove that has caused clogging in drainages, especially here in the Philippines. So those plastics, because they are non-biodegradable, so they are very good tools in destroying the world, as an opinion. So that is verifiable, of course, and that is also debatable because others can because other people can object to that opinion, saying that it's not the plastic that's causing the problem, it's how people use plastic, it's how people dispose of it. See, your opinion leads to discussions, perhaps to more intellectual debate, more intellectual exchange of ideas. That is how we measure an opinion. Okay, next. That's already a belief, so it's already given. Now the last one we're gonna need is a prejudice. We should make something that's half-baked, based from half-baked truth, half-baked or insufficient evidences, unexamined evidence. Okay, humankind only destroys the world. I make the judgment. So that statement makes an impression that the speaker has this anger towards mankind, the rest of the species. I mean, like this anger or dislike to mankind because of what he has done to it. How can we say that is prejudice? Just because there are some inventions that has caused perhaps the destruction of the world, or some people who have made efforts to destroy the races, but it doesn't mean that our sole purpose, that our existence here in this world is only to destroy the earth. Okay, that is prejudice, because you cannot generalize. You cannot generalize that all people are like that. Money can't buy happiness. Money can't buy happiness. Of course, that is still a belief. Because if for me, money can buy me happiness, but other people, especially the rich and famous, they would want to disagree with that. Because, of course, they have a different notion or a different description, different definition of what happiness is. As for me, that is my description. That is what happiness is for me. And each one of us, we have a different way of expressing what it is that would make us happy. Thus, making this statement, money can't buy happiness, a belief. Okay. So, since that is a belief, we go to the same route. Begin with the facts. Let's see. For the fact, you don't really have to formulate one, because facts are found. Facts have been produce of studies and researches. So all you gotta do is find those facts in newspapers, in magazines, in Google. Yes, facts. Okay, so I have dug this one. I have dug one of these information about happiness. Finland is the happiest country in the world. That's according to World Happiness Report in 2018. That alone, there is a date when the study was made, already implies that it is a factual information, because that would imply that a study, a survey has been made, so data has been processed, and if there is data, there is solid information that went through the right channels. Okay. Poor people are the happiest. Poor people are the happiest. It is an opinion because, once more, you base it from the fact that Finland is the happiest country in the world. And other countries also that came to the top of the list are those people in the third world country. And so you made an opinion that the happiest people in the world are the poor people, especially that the Philippines also is one of those countries in those lists, not necessarily in top one, but part of that list. So you have to be well versed in facts so that you can formulate an opinion. So the opinion that I have made up, poor people are the happiest, that is debatable, of course, because you need thorough evidences. I mean, rich people are snobbish. This is obviously a prejudice. Just because rich people do not go or stay with you or dine with you, or you don't see them more often in places where you hang out, doesn't mean that they are snobbish. Maybe there are snobbish rich people, but not all of them are snobbish. So saying that with conviction, rich people are snobbish, that is obviously a judgment. That's a conclusion made out of unexamined evidences. So that is a prejudice. Okay, I would just have to skip to 4. The sun rises and sets every day. That is true. That is true, of course. So that is a fact. We can verify that because every day that happens. Okay, it sets and rises. Okay, so that is a fact. We'll have to formulate now an opinion. Weather affects the people's behavior, or weather affects people's behavior. There are studies that would prove that weather affects our emotions. That may not be true to all people, so that would still be debatable. There is still an aspect in that statement that would still open to studies, to thorough investigations. If human sacrifice is demanded by the sun gods, that is according to the Aztec. So I have to put there Aztec because I would want to imply that that is a belief. That's how the Aztecs believe human sacrifice is essential to their gods. So of course, obviously, that would fall on belief because it is how the Aztecs live. That's their culture, that is their religion. Okay? Next is the prejudice. Aztecs are merciless and blind followers. Just because you have seen some movies that would mirror how Aztecs were, because they were people who sacrifice human lives in order to appease their gods, doesn't mean you have the right to say that they are merciless and blind. Perhaps some of them are, but not all of them. But that's a generalization that could fall to prejudice. None of these statements in my matrix are in their constant places. It's just so timely that our topic before this was the Iliad, the Trojan War mythology. Right after tackling the events or reading about the events that took place in the Trojan War or the Iliad, this is the statement, this is the matrix that I want my students to answer. So first, I want to explain that in 1870, archaeologists discovered remains of a city in northern Turkey that we now think is the Troy described in the Iliad. This one is obviously a fact because that is based on a discovery made by archaeologists. That data has been recorded and you can verify that very much. Okay, next, since that is a fact, what we need is an opinion, a belief, and a prejudice. Troy really did exist. The stories are based on actual experiences of people. Perhaps because writers tend to feel comfort in writing about experiences, but you cannot say that Troy exists because that's how writers do writing. Because there is no solid evidence yet that would prove that Troy really existed. What the excavations would suggest only says it could be Troy, but no specific basis would lead us to a solid image or a solid conclusion that it is indeed Troy. So that would still be debatable. Okay, next, Troy was blessed by the gods. That statement is a belief, especially the ancient Greeks. They believed that a golden city, prosperous civilization must be blessed by the gods. The only reason why you existed that long is because you are blessed by the gods. That is a belief, not because that is my belief. That's how the Greeks believed it. That's the Greeks' tradition. That is their culture. So that would fall on belief. Now, for prejudice, women only weaken men's perspectives. Just because Helen was the cause of the war, the Trojan War, because the three goddesses presented themselves to Paris in order to choose who the fairest is, doesn't mean that women's roles in this world is only to weaken men's perspectives. Of course, they affect men like anyone else, regardless of gender. We affect each other. We can weaken each other, whether man or woman, child or old alike. If you're going to think about it, in the Trojan War, Helen's abduction was just politics. It was one of the tools that Agamemnon used in order to gather all the princes, the nobles of the Greek army in order to go to war to Troy, because he has long been eyeing this city, the citadel, this Troy. And so, Helen is a great opportunity. So you cannot really say that women weaken men's perspectives, because you cannot blame Helen thoroughly for that. It was men's obsession to greed and power that led to the 10-year war. So, sentences 2, 3, 4, and 5, you let your students fill that out so that they would also be thinking of statements related to the given statement that is focused on the Greek mythology. So, we are talking about fact, opinion, belief, and prejudice, and still connecting it to our previous lesson, which is the Greek mythology. But I'm not saying only the Greek mythology. Whichever lesson you have before this, you can of course let your students use the fact, opinion, belief, prejudice matrix to ensure or to make them critical thinkers as well. This matrix will be helpful in your future endeavors in your class activities, or if you are a student and your teacher uses a similar matrix. I hope that my discussion in this video helps you ease out your confusions in how this one should go. So, Teacher Janelle here, and for now, I'd say ta-ta! See you in my next videos.